How's it going, everybody? Today we're going to be taking a look at a deeper dive into the Windows 11 installer. Now, previously we did Windows 11 Home Edition with a Microsoft account. We didn't do a whole lot of changes. We did do a few, but nothing really customizable. So this time we're going to go a little bit deeper. We're going to do things like a local account. We're going to remove all the telemetry out of there as well. And lastly, we're also going to remove some of those silly requirements that Windows 11 has now, so that you can use your older equipment with Windows 11. Without further ado, let's jump right in. And again, I will have all links down in the description below if you need to click on anything or want to know where to download anything at a given time. So we'll go to the Microsoft.com, the software download Windows 11, and we'll simply just scroll down until you see download Windows 11 disk image ISO for x64 devices. Here, we want to select the dropdown and you want to select the Windows 11 multi-edition ISO. Now after that, it may slow down, it may ask you a question or tell you to wait a second. If not, you can just simply go down here and hit confirm. And again, it's going to say validating your request. Sometimes it does it when you first select, other times it's after you hit the confirm. Then we need to select our language. So we're going to go ahead and hit United States and confirm again. Now, after another second or two, you're going to be presented with a download link here. And all you have to do is simply hit this. And it should take, I would say, between 2 to 10 minutes to download. It is 5.4 gigs, so if you have a slower internet connection, this will take a little bit longer. I am fortunate enough to have a very fast connection, so it looks like it'll take me about just over a minute. So after that, we'll come back and we'll download Rufus. All right, now that our Windows 11 is downloaded, we can go ahead and close this page. And then the next one, we're going to go to the rufus.ie. Now I'll have this link down in the description below again, but the only thing I want you guys to pay attention to is this site is full of ads, which is really annoying. I will be honest. So you want to make sure you're not hitting download or anything like that. You want to hit these X's, and when you see this little up here that says ad, you are aware that you do not want to click that download button. So we'll hit the X here, and you'll just see that everything around here is just full of ads. And this is why I always recommend an ad blocker. It just keeps you out of trouble. So I'm going to go ahead and just scroll down, and the links that you want to see, you'll see this green banner here, and then you're going to see 4 different downloads. We'll see a standard, portable, and then 2 other types of standards. Now I'm going to choose the portable option. If you want to go to GitHub, if you guys know how to use that, that's a perfectly acceptable way to go download this as well. But I'm just going to show you how to do it from the site. So simply just click the portable download exe, and it should automatically download for you. After that, all you have to do is run the application, and then we will switch over and I will show you guys how to do this. All right, so we have our 2 items that we needed. We have Rufus here, and then we also have our Windows 11 ISOs, which is perfect. Now, after you plug in the USB drive, you should see it show up. Now, if you have multiple USB drives in there, you do want to make sure that you're going to be using the right one that you want to put this image on. So I chose this yellow one. It's the only one I have plugged into my system. And then for the boot selection, we're going to do disk or ISO, and then we're going to simply hit select. Now I'm going to go into my downloads folder here and then just simply click on the ISO here and then hit open. All right, after that, the image option, partition scheme, target system, all this stuff, we're not going to be messing with in this video. We're simply just going to kind of keep it the default. We're going to keep the volume label default as well. And then for the advanced format, you don't have to change any of this. And then when you click start, there's going to be another screen that shows up. And this is where we're going to be changing out some of the settings. So we do want to remove the requirement for the 4 gig plus RAM, secure boot, and TPM requirements that Windows 11 puts on the systems now. And that will allow you to use your older systems to install Windows 11 on. Secondly, we want to remove the requirement for an online Microsoft account because we're not going to be using a Microsoft account. We're going to be using a local one this time. And with that, since Rufus actually has the ability to create you a local account, which is super handy, we're going to go ahead and just check that box. And then you can type in any local account name that you want it to automatically create for you. Now, setting this regional options to the same value as this users, I'm going to just leave blanked off. I'm not really sure what it's actually doing here, but to the next one, we are going to disable the data collection. Now, this is going to disable most of the Microsoft data collection. It's going to be very limited telemetry that it's going to allow Microsoft to do. And then lastly, there is a disable BitLocker automatic device encryption. Now, we're not going to be dealing with BitLocker in this video, so I'm not really going to worry about it. I'm just going to leave that check mark off. But once you have made your selections, you've put in your local username, you're just going to simply hit OK. And it's going to tell you that all the data on the device itself is going to be destroyed in this process, but we're well aware of that. We've made sure that we've used the right USB at this point, so we're going to hit OK. Now, this process should take between, I would say, 2 to 5 minutes to complete. Again, depending on your hardware that you're running this on the machine. And then we will go ahead and stick this USB into the device that we want to install Windows 11 on and make sure that we boot up that USB. And I'll see you over at the installer. All right, so here we are back into the installer here. We've booted off our USB drive, so we can go ahead and continue. So we'll go and select our language and time and currency format, which both are going to be in English for myself, change as needed, and we'll hit next. Again, keyboard input, we're still going to stick with the US, and we'll hit next again. All right, so for our select setup options, we want to make sure that we hit install Windows 11, and we're also going to agree that everything will be deleted, including files, apps, and settings, because this is another guide. Again, we're not taking anything from a previous version. This is a fresh install, so we'll go ahead and select that box and hit next. Here it's asking for the product key. Now, if you have one for Windows Home, Pro, whatever you want, you could try to put it in here if it will work. Go for it, great. If you don't have a product key, that is not a big deal. You can just simply select I don't have a product key. Windows does not limit you if you don't have a product key from using Windows. You can only do, there are some like weird settings that you're just not able to access until you activate a product key. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit I don't have a product key. And here it's going to take a few seconds while it gets a few things ready. So we'll see how long it takes for Windows. And a few seconds later here, we're presented in which Windows 11 operating system we want to install. Now, I am going to choose the Windows Home 11. That is the one I'm choosing. If you guys have a different product key or something like that, sometimes it'll auto-select if you input a product key and it'll just associate whatever OS version is associated with that product key. But since I did not put a product key, it's going to allow me to pick and choose which one I want. Now, this will not be Windows 11 Pro, like I said, this is Windows Home, and we'll hit Next. Next, we're presented with the Terms and Conditions page. We'll just simply scroll to the bottom and hit Accept. All right, next we have a fresh disk in here, a 45 gig disk. This is on a VM, so yours might change and look a little different. Just verify that you will have the selected disk that you want to install Windows 11 on. Now, if this is a previous version and you're willing to just lose everything on that drive, you can select it and hit delete partition, and that will just make it a unallocated space. Once you're here, you can just simply hit next, and it should automatically configure it to be ready for Windows. Now, it'll make 3 different drives, I believe. We can go hit back here. It should show. Okay, so it makes 2 different. So you can see there's 2 partitions. One's for like the system information, and the other one's the actual installer area where we'll have access on our Windows platform once we're fully installed. So we can go ahead and hit next. And here it's going to recap real quick that we are installing Windows 11 Home and we're keeping nothing. Now, if something doesn't look right here, you can simply keep hitting back until you go back to a previous menu to change whatever you need to change. And then once you're done and ready to go, just go ahead and hit install. For this next part, it'll take between 5 and 40 minutes, I would say. So I'll see you guys when this is finished. As you can see here, it is still progressing through and our screen has changed now. So it still says it's installing. I'm going to let it keep doing its thing. But it does say now that it may restart a few times. So just don't be aware if your computer does restart at this point. All right, so a few reboots later, here we are at the country selection. Again, we're just going to choose the United States and hit yes. And we're also going to select the US as a right keyboard layout. Again, you can change this as needed, but I'm in the US, so I'm going to keep it on the default. Do I want to add a second keyboard layout? I do not at this time, so I'm going to go ahead and hit skip. So Windows is still going to check for updates at this point. We haven't done anything like disabling this part so that it installs faster, so you're just going to have to wait for things to update and possibly do another restart before we continue on. Now, after it did some of those updates, it is going to restart, but you're also going to see that it has created a local user that it's signing in, and now it's saying that it's going to take a few minutes to set up the PC for us. As before, when we did the beginner tutorial, you saw that we had to go through about 30 or 40 different crazy questions that Microsoft is just trying to shove down. You know, it's trying to sell you on any little thing it possibly could. And in this approach we're taking, it is a lot smoother. It's a lot more streamlined. We're not having all those questions we have to deal with. And just like that, we are in our desktop here. Everything is going to load a little slowly here, and we can already see that there are a few apps that are going to get installed or recommended to us that we probably don't want installed, so we're going to have to turn off all that stuff. But we can see that we do have a desktop, which is perfect. We didn't have to do all those questions. It's a lot easier to just handle, and now we can take off from here. Now, first things first, I want to change the display resolution so it's a little easier for you guys to see. So I'm going to just hit right click display settings, display resolution, and change this to 1080p, keep changes, and let me convert the screen over real quick. All right, so perfect. Now we have a better resolution. Hopefully this looks a little bit better for you guys. And first up, just like the beginner video, what we want to do is go ahead and go into the Windows Update settings. Now we're going to just check for updates here. Hopefully everything's mostly updated from the install and also downloading the latest version of Windows 11, but most likely not. There are going to be, a handful of updates. And if you guys are doing this on your own hardware, it's probably going to pull down quite a few different drivers for you as well, which will be perfect. This part can take quite a while, especially if you have a ton of different drivers that need to be installed. So we'll just go ahead and wait for these to download and install, and then possibly restart as well. Now I'm going to continue to let this go. It has completed one update. It is kind of going a little slow for me, but we're going to go ahead and continue on while this updates in the background. So I'm going to go ahead and just minimize this for now. So now that we have updates out of the way, what we want to do is right click on the start menu or the Windows icon here, and then we are going to go into device manager. Now you can simply hit the Windows key as well and type device manager, or even look in the search for device manager. All three ways are acceptable. This is going to bring up a new window for you with the device manager, and what we're looking for is any exclamation marks in any of these items. Now we can right click on our desktop and hit scan for hardware changes. Sometimes you won't see the little exclamation marks or missing drivers here until you do so. But if you see any of these things that have the exclamation mark, that means you are missing the driver. So I would definitely keep running the Windows updates until there are no more updates. It says that you're completely up to date, because most of the time Microsoft is actually pretty good with the Windows updates on resolving these issues that arise. All right, so now that we have everything, since we did not put in a product key before, we do want to make sure that we activate Windows before we start customizing Windows itself, because we will be limited on what we can do if we don't have an activated Windows product. So we'll go ahead and hit the start menu and just type in Windows activate, and you should see if Windows is activated here. Now, if you don't want to go and search, you can open up the settings, hit system, and you should see that Windows isn't activated here, and we can hit activate now. And we will see that we don't have a product key. So what we want to do is go under the change product key, hit change, and then we'll input our product key. Now give me a second while I get Windows activated, and we will be right back. All right, and we're back, and you can see that our screen has now changed to Windows Home, and it has been in an active activation state, which is perfect. That means Windows is activated and we can continue on with our configuration. Now up next is going to be a little bit of personal preference here. I'm going to go into the settings here, and then personalization, and then I'm just going to choose one of the dark themes just initially to get us in the mood. Now I like dark themes, and that's just a personal preference. If you don't, feel free to leave it on the light screen. You can also choose one of these 6 that Microsoft gives you as a default, but we can configure this a little bit later on. Now moving on, since we're going to go a little bit deeper in here, we're going to go into our accent colors, and I want to do maybe like a light blue as my accent color. You can also do custom colors. We can show the accent color on the start menu or the taskbar. I don't really like that. I'd rather have it as just a dark, but we're also going to be changing the taskbar a little bit later as well. And lastly, you can show the accent color on the title bars and the window borders. Now, some people like this. I think Linux likes to do this a lot too. For me, it's almost a little bit more of a hindrance. I like the blend in of just like the light gray around the edge. So I'm just going to leave that off. So I'll go back. All right, now back on here, we're going to hit the lock screen here, and then you can personalize your lock screen. Now you can do Windows Spotlight. You can set it to a static picture. We can have a slideshow, whichever you want. I don't really like the Windows Spotlight because it always likes to put the little icons like where was this picture taken and all that good stuff. So I'm just going to do a picture, and we'll do something like that. Just simple, elegant. We can also convert it if we want to have the weather, the time, all that stuff on there. But the one setting I do want to make sure that I turn off is get fun facts, tips, and tricks. Now, this will also remove it if you have the Windows Spotlight from having the tips and tricks or the fun facts about the screen itself. And then moving on, we can go to screen timeout. Now we can see our power mode is in balanced, but I want to switch this to best performance. So we'll also play around with the power options a little later, but this is just one way of doing it. And after that, we can just go ahead and close this out. I am then going to go down here on the taskbar, right click and hit taskbar settings. I'm actually going to hide the search box here and then the task view, which can be turned off or on. It's just a little icon. What it does is allows you to have multiple desktops environments. Now I'm just going to go ahead and turn this off because you don't need to have it turned on to just be able to hit the Windows key and the tab, which does the exact same thing. I just use the keyboard shortcut. I don't need a little icon on my screen to tell me how to do it. And then lastly, you can see that widgets is on. It shows my weather and my location. Now, if you don't want Windows to have your location and all that, we can actually turn this off. And then we can search for location, if I can spell it right. Location privacy settings is what you want. And then just make sure that location services is turned off. And then there you go. You won't have this and Windows will not be monitoring your current location. I am sure there is some sort of telemetry built into Windows that is still monitoring your location, but this is just one way to do that instead. After that, we'll just go ahead and hit close on the box here. All right, so up next, we're going to add a password. Since we had Rufus set us up with a local account, it doesn't automatically put us into a password, so we're going to need to create one ourselves. So we'll go ahead and hit the start menu, and then we'll just type in password. And you should see change your password here. And it'll bring you into the sign in options where we'll have the option of password. We can hit the drop down and we can say use a password to sign into Windows apps and services. So we'll hit add and it'll ask you what you want your new password to be. Now I'm just going to do something pretty basic. And then once you have created it, if you need to see it, you can hit the little eye and then we'll just go ahead and hit next. And it's going to say the next time you sign in, use your new password for our local account, which is perfect. And there you go. Now you have a password. Now, if you guys want to do like something like a PIN, you can also set that up here as well. It'll ask you what your password is. And then we can say, oh, we want to pin like how we did with the Microsoft account. Now you can choose letters and symbols. I'm just going to do all numbers and you can hit OK. And that's a simple way to sign in as well with a PIN. And then those of you like on laptops or with webcams or fingerprint readers, you can also set that information up pretty easily up here with these two options. As you can see, this option is currently unavailable because I do not have it supported on this device. And that's all we needed to do for the password section. So we'll go ahead and hit close on that. All right, so up next, maybe we want to change out a few more things. So we're going to go ahead and hit into Microsoft Edge here. And we're going to have to go through the step process. If you haven't already done it, just say that you don't want to bring over any data because, you know, this should be a brand new install. There should be no data to bring over. And then once you get to a new tab, what we're going to type in is go to Google itself. Google is also going to try to get you to download Chrome, but I'm not interested at this time. And then we're going to do Titus Tech Utility and then hit enter. Now I'll put the full command down in the description itself, but if you want to follow along with this guide, we can see christitus.com, the ultimate Windows utility, which is perfect. That's exactly what we want. Again, we're going to have a bunch of ads, unfortunately, but we're going to scroll down until you see from an elevated run as administrator PowerShell prompt. We want to use this prompt. So we can go ahead and hit copy here. Then we're going to go ahead and hit our start menu here and just type in PowerShell. Before you hit enter, you're going to see that it's going to best match with this one. And we want to hit run as administrator. Now we're going to just hit yes. And then here we're just going to hit Control V to enter. You can also right click and it'll also enter it as well. And then hit enter after that types in. And you're going to see it start to do a little web response. It's just pulling down his script from his website here so that we can run the utility. The utility is actually super handy here. It'll allow us to do a lot of cool features. So we'll let it do its thing here for just a minute while it pulls down all that information. After a moment or two, you should be presented with this new screen. Now, the first screen is going to be install, second one tweaks, third config, fourth updates, and then fifth is the micro win, which Microwind is something we will be doing in the more advanced section of the Windows 11 install later on in another video. So if you want to learn more about that, that's where that video will be. Now, first up, we want to install some stuff here to make sure that our Windows is our Windows and we have everything that we want installed on it. So I'm going to go ahead and install Chrome and also Firefox because I feel like having two different browsers is sometimes nice, especially for some troubleshooting. Next, again, we'll go ahead and download Discord because, we need to have some sort of chatting app. All right, scrolling down here, we're going to also get VS Code because that is a very important and very useful utility for coding. Now, by all means, this is all personal preference, so you don't have to download everything I'm downloading. I'm also going to download Notepad++ because it's just nice to have on the system. So one thing I will say you should definitely download is under Microsoft Tools, you're going to see Power Toys. Now, this is a really cool utility, and we're going to be going into it a little bit further later in this video of configuring it, but it's super handy. I would definitely recommend everybody download it. This is just another easy way to download it. And again, moving on, I'm just seeing if there's anything else that I really want to download at this time. All right, so I've made my selection. As you can see on the left-hand screen, we see selected apps 6. If we click that button, it'll actually tell us each item that we're going to install. And then we want to hit at the top here, the actions, install and upgrade applications. So we're going to go ahead and hit that. And then it's going to have a status bar here. And now if we move back to our PowerShell screen, we're going to see it actually doing the winget and just getting all these installers and downloading them for us. It does all the work for you, similar to the way I did Night in our beginner video. So this is just another way to do that automated process. Now I'm going to move these screens a little bit so it's more of a side-by-side so you can kind of see the difference. One is showing you kind of in a GUI format that it's installing Google Chrome, and we can see it's doing its thing in the PowerShell window as well. It found Google Chrome, it's downloading it, it's installing it. Now things might start popping up, especially as it downloads it, because things like Discord just want to auto run instantly, but I'm just going to go ahead and close out of that window while it continues on with the installers. Again, with the Power Toys, once it's installed, it's also going to bring up a window. We're just going to go ahead and hit close on this for now. We'll go into the configuration a little bit later. And there we have it, guys. That's all the software installed. We can see on the PowerShell side, it says installs have finished, and our status bar has gone away on the Titus utility, which is perfect. So we're good on that front. Now what we want to do is go under the tweaks themselves. Now that we're under the tweaks themselves, this is a pretty cool area here. We can do a lot of manual switches as well as we can do the recommended, which if you hit like standard, you're going to see that it's going to default a lot of this stuff. We could do minimum, which is going to do kind of the basic stuff, or we can clear all of our check marks if we wanted to get it, fully removed if maybe we made some misselections that we don't want to deal with. So first off, if you want to use these recommended, by all means, go for it. But I'm going to manually go through this and we can check the boxes that we want to check. All right, so first up, we want to make sure that it does a restart point. We've gotten to a pretty good place here with our install. Everything's kind of working. Before we do any crazy configuration, you do want to make a restore point. Then also for the temporary files, we can go ahead and delete that. It shouldn't really delete much. Up next, we have disable consumer features, which is a pretty cool one, and it doesn't allow things like Windows 10 to automatically install games, third-party apps, application links like that. I think Windows 11 has stopped doing a lot of this stuff, but I always just check it anyways. Never know. Then up next is the disable telemetry because Microsoft does spy on you quite a bit. We can go ahead and check that box. The activity history, this erases recent docs, clipboards, and run history. Now, we shouldn't have any of this really because we haven't done much on the system, but I'm just going to go ahead and hit check the box anyways. Now, we can also disable Explorer automatic folder discovery. Now, I leave this one off because it tries to guess the type of folder based on its contents. It says it slows it down. I really haven't experienced that too much, but if you guys are experiencing some slowdown with folders and Windows Explorer in general, this might be a good one to check. Up next is the Game DVR, which is a Windows app for the dependency in the in-store games. Now, I don't really do any of that stuff on this machine, so I'm going to go ahead and hit disable. And up next is going to be disable hibernation. Now, myself personally, I hate hibernation. It always just seems to break everything every time I try to use it on a laptop. It was supposed to be a good energy saving method. Honestly, in reality, I don't think it does much at all, so I'm just going to go ahead and disable it anyways. Now, up next is the home group. Now, this was supposed to be a feature that you could turn on and share a password with everybody on your home network to allow them to share files. In reality, a lot of people didn't even know existed, so I'm just going to go ahead and disable it. And since we've now disabled weather on this and made sure our location is off, we can also just disable our location tracking. This will go through a PowerShell version of it and just ensure that everything has been disabled for us. Up next is the disable storage sense. Now, storage sense likes to delete temp files automatically. We might not want that because we might want to test around with some temp files, so I'm just going to go ahead and disable it for now. And here we go for the Wi-Fi sense. Now, this states that Wi-Fi sense is a spying service that phones home all nearby scanned Wi-Fi networks and your current geolocation to create a master list for Microsoft. Now, I'm going to go ahead and disable this. I don't know quite if this is actually true, but I have seen a couple different articles regarding this, so I'm probably going to assume that it is true in some sense. So I'm just going to go ahead and disable that. Now for this one, it's enable end task with a right click when clicking on a program in the taskbar. This can be a little bit more useful than trying to hit close program. I feel like it actually does close out the program faster and more reliably. Sometimes you'd get that hanging if you hit close program, like close all windows. It would hang. So I'm gonna go ahead and enable that one as well. For the next one, run disk cleanup. It removes all old Windows updates. Since we did a bunch of updates, I'm not really going to do this right now. Maybe in the future, if you guys were experiencing something slow, or if you want to go back in here and make some changes, that'd be probably a good time to run disk cleanup. But I'm trying to do this a little bit faster. Up next is going to be changing the Windows terminal default from PowerShell 5 to 7. Now, there are some different commands that work in 5 and 7. And especially with 7 being the most current version, I'm going to go ahead and enable this. And now we can see this next one is going to be creating an environment variable called PowerShell Telemetry output, and with a value of 1, which will tell PowerShell 7 not to send telemetry data. Since we're trying to avoid any kind of telemetry data going back to Microsoft, we're going to go ahead and hit check. And then we can see disable recall. Now, recall is part of the Microsoft Copilot stuff that allows you to recall anything that you had previously done on your system because it's taking snapshots. They say it's not enabled by default, that you have to have the subscription, but it's so tied into the Windows 11 boot image or just the image itself. That any way we can limit and make sure that it's disabled, we want to do. So I'm going to go ahead and check that. Now, next, since we disabled hibernation, this one's going to set hibernation, which does a standby mode. This sets it at the default, which will not drain the battery. I'm not going to do it since I'm disabling hibernation, and this isn't a laptop that I'm on, so I'm not too worried about this one. Our next option is going to be setting services to manual. Now, I'm not sure exactly which system services it's done. I have used this in the past, and it does appear to actually make a pretty good effort in making adjustments on boot up times and also resources that Windows is using at any given time. But what it does is turns these services from automatic to manual. So anytime you need them to be enabled, like if you open up a program that requires these services to be on, it will automatically just turn them on anyways. So it's just kind of a harmless way of doing it, but keeping the resources minimized on the Windows front if you don't need to use them at any given time. And our next two options are going to be deep loading Brave or the Edge browser. Now this gets rid of things like telemetry options, pop-ups, and annoyances that like Edge has, like the little pop-up screens like please download this or try this out. It's pretty handy if you do use Edge. I don't typically use Edge, but I always just enable it since Edge is installed by default, so I'll just go ahead and check that box. Now moving on to the more advanced tweaks. Now these ones can cause a lot of issues if you're not careful with them. Now out of all these options, all we're really going to do is look for disable Microsoft Copilot because this is the one we want to disable. It'll disable all the Copilot AI built into Windows since 23H2, which is perfect since we still can see that Copilot is installed at this time. As for some of these other options, like the Adobe Network Block is actually pretty good. But you want to make sure that you don't run this until you have actually installed all your Adobe products because it stops Adobe from phoning home all your data. especially with the way Adobe has been treating their stuff lately. They basically say that anything you do on their product is now their property. So having it not phone home all that data is perfect, especially if you're still locked into a subscription or something like that. But be careful with this stuff because it can cause you to like break the updates for not Windows, but it'll break the updates for Adobe themselves. So we're only going to be worried about in this advanced tweaks, the Microsoft Copilot one. Now over here on the customized preferences, you can do things like the num lock on startup, which is actually pretty handy if you guys have that 10 key on your keyboard. I like to enable this, and you can see as soon as you hit this button, it automatically sets the variable for you on the terminal or the PowerShell side window. So you don't have to click any button to just enable that. We are going to have to select the button to run tweaks to enforce all of these checkboxes, but I wanted to show you guys everything over here before we go ahead and hit run tweaks, because this will take a little while to do. Some of the other options that are toggled off by default here are remove setting home pages, and this is the home page, but in the Windows settings app. Take it or leave it. I usually just leave this off. I don't really mind the home page. The ones I do like to enable here are show hidden files, because that is just very handy, especially when you're working with different documents or anything like that. And then showing file extensions as well. And you'll see that your system kind of flashes in the background as these get enabled because it's restarting the Explorer EXE. Now, lastly, you're going to see the performance plans. Now, this is a special battery plan that you can hit, or a power plan, whatever you want to call it. But it's called the Ultimate Performance Profile. Now, it does have a little effect on the system. I have seen some gaming improvements for people that do this, but beware if you're on a laptop, this will allow your laptop to consume more power, generate more heat. So just be aware of that. It's really meant for desktops, especially like gaming rigs. So I'm going to just go ahead and hit this. And you'll see in the background that it's going to start doing it. It's going to install. It's going to set it as the active performance profile. So it kind of does it all in the background for us, which is perfect. So you might see that you see all these different options. You're like, great, I have everything done that I needed to do. For those of you with eagle eyes, you will notice that there is a scroll bar. Now, this is something a lot of people miss. You can actually scroll down, and there is a lot more different options that you can choose from. So do be aware of that. There are some additional options. We can disable the notification tray, things like that, the binary table. We can also set the display for performance. I haven't really dealt with this one too much, so I don't know if it really does give a good improvement. But one thing I do like to do is set the classic right-click menu here as well. That'll give us the the non-default basic new Windows 11 one. It'll look more like 7 and 10 for you. We can also remove OneDrive, which is great. And a super nice one, guys, if you have Razer software, if you have saved profile or you don't want to just have the Razer software try to install every time you plug in a Razer device, hitting the block Razer software install is actually pretty beneficial. I have a couple work machines that I've run this on just because I like to use some of the more basic level Razer products. And I don't need the software installed on it, so I just use it as a basic keyboard and mouse. This has been super handy for me. And now that we've made all of our tweaks, we have all our selected boxes, I'm going to go ahead and hit run tweaks. And then we're going to see that again in the PowerShell window, it's going to do a whole bunch of stuff for just a little bit. So I'll be back when this finishes up. All right, and we're back. You can see on the other screen, it says tweaks are finished. Now I wish it did do a little pop-up window saying that it was complete. You do really have to monitor this PowerShell window to make sure that you know when things are done. Also be aware with this product, you cannot close out this window while you're in this window. If you do, it's going to close out this utility and you're going to have to use that command again in a PowerShell admin privileged window to open this all back up. So just kind of be aware of that. All right, so now that we're done with the tweaks, we're going to go over to config here. All right, on this screen, it's less about tweaks, but more configuration and enabling features if you want. Here, I would say a lot of this stuff is going to be up to you. If you want to turn on things like Hyper-V virtualization, disabling the legacy F8 boot recoveries, enabling it or disabling it, sometimes it's nice to have that, especially with the Windows 11. Now you have to hold Shift and do the restart, so having the F8 is kind of a handy thing. Other things like set up auto login. Now this was done with Rufus, and we set up a password to kind of stop this. If you never set up a password, it would continuously just auto login as soon as you reboot the machine. But most of the stuff on here is more going to be if personal preference than anything. You'll also see the legacy Windows panels. So if we do things like computer management, it's just going to open up computer management for you. And rather than going down here and searching, it's kind of silly, but if you're already in the utility, it can be kind of handy instead of just having to go in and type all that stuff. Now all this is going to be personal preference. If you want to do things like enable Hyper-V virtualization, again, be aware that Windows Home does not allow you to do some of these different features, but if you do have something like Windows Pro, and you do want to set up some of this stuff, you would just check the boxes and then hit install features. And that's all there is to it. It would do it in the background and again, tell you that it would be, completed and ready to go. Lastly, on this utility here, we're going to hit updates. Now on this screen, this is super handy if you have more of systems that are like older or you've been using for some time and you're not sure if your Windows updates got corrupted or maybe changed around at all. You can actually hit default settings. It's going to go back into Windows updates and change everything that was default out of the box settings. Now, there are two other options here. We have disable all updates, which I don't recommend because this is going to break things. It's also going to put you at a higher risk for security issues. But then we also have security settings, and this is going to be the recommended update settings loaded. So you don't have to come up with like good update settings. This one is just going to default to you. You can see as soon as you click it, it's automatically going to set all that stuff and updates set to recommended, which is fine. It's been completed. And that's all there is to this utility. Now, this utility is pretty basic, but it's also super handy and did a lot of stuff for us that, like previously in the beginner, we had to go through a bunch of different menus to go find and stuff like that. This just automates the process and makes it easier for yourself. So now that we're done, we can go ahead and hit the X. You will see that we are presented back into our PowerShell window and we can close out of this as well. All right, so up next, what we're going to do is we're going to actually open up the start menu and we're going to look for Power Toys. Now, if it's not showing up in your recommended, you can go and hit the all apps and then scroll down to Power Toys preview. And we want to just check that and open it up and it should open up the menu. Now, there is a lot of cool different features in this utility. Some of the ones that I definitely recommend are the fancy zones, always on top. Awake is okay. It just keeps your PC from going to sleep or hibernation or anything like that. Typically, I just turn this off because I have no purpose for it on. Another little cool feature is Find My Mouse. Now, if you hit the left control on your keyboard twice, you will see that it has this little like circle around it. So it helps you find where your mouse might have went. Super handy if you have multiple monitors and you're just like, where the heck did my mouse go? Did it disappear? Is my screen frozen or something like that? So that's just a cool little utility you can have. Now, by all means, feel free to go through all these. You can check boxes if you want, turn them off, on. If they do turn off, they go down here in the disabled modules. You can just hit like, re-enable them as well. Another cool one I will say is this text extractor. Now, you can do this in a couple different ways in Windows, and I will do a little bit more detailed guide on this later on in another video, but for just a quick context, you can hit Windows, Shift, and T, and you're going to be presented with this little crosshair. Now, you can hit the crosshair over words in Windows, and you're going to just see that it's gone away. But if we open up Notepad, now that Notepad has opened up, since we copied or we selected show a help overlay with Windows shortcuts, if we Control V, you can see that it's already just copied into our clipboard. Now, while we're on the subject of copying things over, I want you guys to hit the Windows key and V on your desktop. Now you're going to be presented with a new screen and it's going to be the clipboard. Now it says, let's get started. Turn on clipboard history to copy and view multiple items. Now this is super handy because it's like a history book for everything that you've copied. So if you're doing a lot of copy and pasting over and over again, it could be super, super handy. We want to go ahead and hit turn on. Now, if we hit Control C on this again, we'll hit Windows key V. Now, the next time that you copy something, it should show up in here in this clipboard history. Sometimes you do need to restart after you enabled it. I haven't done a restart, so that might be why it won't work right now. The other feature in here is you will see a little pin icon, and it allows you to actually pin whatever you had copied. So if you have something like a username or something that you use quite frequently, or just a default template, you can actually pin it. And then the next time you need to use it, you just hit Windows V, click this, and then you would just Control V after that on the screen that you wanted to copy it to. So super handy stuff. One last thing while we're in here is the power toy settings. Now we'll go into the fancy zones here in just a second, but the other one that I wanted to talk about is the power toys. Now, if any of you guys are familiar with Mac, you will know that if you hit like the Mac key and the space bar, it allows you to do like a quick search. This one allows you to do the same thing with Alt and space. Now we could type in like Notepad, and you will see that we have a bunch of different things in here that we could select from. If we wanted things like calculator, we can do that. I think you can even do, so you can even do things like mathematical equations right from this screen as well. So if you had like just a simple multiplication or add number, you can see that just 5 plus 5 is 10. And then if you click on it, it'll actually copy it to the clipboard for you, which is perfect. All right, so then now that we've done all that, let's go into the fancy zones here, and we're gonna hit Launch Layout Editor. Now from the screen here, we can hit No Layout, Focus, Columns, Rows, Grid, or Priority Grid. Now, if you guys have like a certain default way you want all your windows, say you have like a couple different web pages open and some applications like a Spotify, and you want your Spotify to be like in the bottom right corner or anything like that, this is the perfect product for you. So we'll go ahead and hit edit on here. I do make sure that the number of zones you can add more or less, it just kind of depends. I typically start with about 5. I like the double, and then the larger middle. And then the other thing is the space around the zones. Now you'll see if this is checked, you can see in the background that it has like this gap. And if you were to like move the window, it will actually retain this gap. I don't like that. I like it to be as close as possible. So we'll go ahead and hit save here. And then if we actually want to make some changes to it, we can hit the minimize here and then go to the screen. So this just does a default version. This one's called the priority grid, so we could hit save here. But if we want to make a custom one, we can go ahead and hit create new layout, and we'll just leave it as default here, and we'll just say we want to make it a grid, so we'll hit create. Now it's going to say, you know, you can hold shift for a vertical split. You can click and drag different zones. It is good to know all these different things, but we could sit here and move around our different utilities. And then if I wanted to add something like this, we could say, okay, just click there, and we've done something similar to what we just saw. But let's say we just wanted a very, very small left screen, but a larger right with the dual splits on either side. Then we just hit save. I will recommend that you guys hit the edit icon again and then uncheck the space around the zones. Now, after that, you just hit save and we can exit out of that. Now here, I'll show you how this actually works. So when we take our web page, we just hold shift down and then you will see all the different zones appear. So let's see if we can open up a couple more utilities here, and we can see again, holding shift and then just letting go while holding shift with the mouse button allows it to just snap into place, and then you can let go of shift. And we can see that we have a pretty good little layout here that is just very useful. It's really good for those of you that have, you know, like like I said, specific applications that need to go in certain corners and stuff like that, or certain sizes that you like to just retain. Windows is not the greatest about saving what previously it looked like. So this is a great utility. I definitely highly recommend it. So we're almost done on this video here, but let's do a few more things. So I'm going to right click on my desktop, hit view, and uncheck show desktop icons. And we also can see down here that we have a few icons that maybe you don't want. So I'm going to right click on the Windows Store and unpin from taskbar. And then the same for the Outlook, I'm going to unpin from taskbar. Now we can see that there are some other applications that are installed here. So we're just going to go and type in add or remove programs. And then we can go through this list and just uninstall anything that we might see that we just don't want in the first place. We do know that we saw Outlook. I don't know if it's actually installed under here or if so you can see that Outlook is installed right here. We just click the three dots and hit uninstall, and away it should go. Do that for any other applications in here that you see that you don't really want. And then once you're done, just hit the X. After that, I'm going to go ahead and pin a couple of applications that I use a lot. So I'm going to just click and drag down the Chrome, and then click and drag down Firefox, and then also Discord, because I want these down here with me. Now, we have a pretty basic desktop here. Let's just spice it up just a little bit more. Now, I'm going to go ahead and hit Firefox here because that's the one I like to default and use. I'm going to set Firefox as default. Just hit save and continue. Do I want to personalize Firefox? No, I will sign into it later. So I'm just going to skip for now and then hit start browsing. Now I'm going to go to this ultra wides wallpaper site again. Now we use this in the beginner video. It's super handy. It has some really cool wallpapers to use. And perfect. I found one that I like. It's going to tell me that I need to log in for a free continue. So we could sign up with an email. I'm just going to go ahead and sign up and log in real quick. Feel free to do this. If you don't, you can use the basic ones on the front home screen without having to sign in. But if you find something down here in the bigger list of different items, you will have to actually sign in, unfortunately. All right, now that we're signed in, we can go ahead and click the image that we want to do. And then we'll select crop and download from my display, which is perfect. And then you're going to see that it allows you to move around on what part of the image you want. Now, we did this in the beginner, like I said, so you can adjust the contrast, brightness, all that good stuff, but I'm going to keep it at the default of where it's at. And then just scroll down a little bit and hit download wallpaper. Now this will just put it in your downloads folder. We can click the little icon here and we'll see it. And then we can right click the image itself and hit set as desktop wallpaper. Now we're looking pretty good. Now there are some things I want to change about the taskbar itself. So I'm going to right click again on the taskbar and the settings. Now the other thing is the taskbar behaviors. Now we can check and make sure things like automatically hide taskbar if you want. If you don't like the centering, you can hit left. I enjoy the centering because I do think it actually gives a really good look. Everything on here is actually the way I want it to be. You can turn on little icons here if you want things for like Discord, system security notifications, the power toys, the task manager, all that's good stuff. I guess everything that I wanted was on, so we'll go ahead and close out of that. Next, I'm going to go into the Microsoft Store, and the thing I'm looking for is translucent TV. Now it's going to be this one with this big blue T, big green B. There are a bunch of clones in the store. Make sure you get this one, as this one was, I think, the original, and it's very lightweight to use, doesn't use a lot of utilities. And we'll just go ahead and hit get. Now it should automatically download and install this for us. Now, once this is downloaded, you're going to see that nothing really happened with the taskbar, but we do see an open. Now we want to click the open button, and that should actually run the program. And boom, we can see that it says welcome to translucent TV. We saw that the taskbar itself has just kind of disappeared now, and we can hit continue. Now, I really like this. It's going to stay in your system tray down here running. You'll see the translucent TV. If for any reason it's really messing up anything, you can exit out, but by default, it will enable to run at boot, which is perfect. So you may see it not enable right away when you boot or like reboot into Windows, but just give it a few seconds and it should kick on. Now, there's a couple more things I still want to do, I guess. I do want to change out the mouse. And then I also want to show you guys a cool little utility for the top bar up here. So now I'm going to change out the mouse pointer. And before in the beginner video, we did a mouse cursor with the accessibility change. Again, I'm just going to use that because honestly, it's great to use the default one. It's kind of a headache to do a custom mouse cursor. Now in my fully customizable setup of Windows 11, I will do a different one where we go through and actually change it out to something very unique rather than this basic one that's just kind of colored over it. But we can go in here and just hit mouse settings. We can do the accessibility mouse settings is what we want. And then we're going to go ahead and hit mouse pointer. And then we just hit the far right one, which is a custom one. Now we can change the color. I'm going to change it to a blue to kind of match the blue in the background, which I think will match pretty well. And then we can just exit out and that is done. Now the last piece of this puzzle is we need to go to GitHub. Now again, I will have the link in the description below, But what we're going to be doing is getting something called YASB Reborn. Now, this is a cool utility that kind of does some stuff for us. Again, we can just go down and we'll see a winget install. I'm just going to go ahead and hit copy on that, and then we can open up terminal or PowerShell. It really does not matter. Right click, run as administrator. And again, we're just going to right click in here and it should automatically paste for us and hit enter. Now it's going to download this utility. Now, basically what it does is gives you a cool little interface at the top of the screen that we can customize to the way we want. Now, I'm not going to go into a full customization on this. We'll do a video on this later in more depth, but I just wanted to show you this utility and we'll just play around with some of the default settings that we can do. So after it's installed, you will see that nothing again happens. We will have to open up our thing and you'll see YASB was recently added. Again, if we go into all of our apps, we can scroll down to Y and we'll see YASB. So we'll just click it and it will automatically run for us. Now it's also going to say that some fonts were missing. So we need the JetBrains Mono NFP. So if we do just click on that, it's actually going to take us straight to the page. And we can hit OK. And then we need the Nerd Font Mono. Now we're going to just scroll down to JetBrains Mono Nerd Font and we can go ahead and hit download here. Nerd Fonts is actually pretty cool. There's a lot of cool different fonts in here. And it's going to be presented with a zip folder. Now we just want to back out a little bit, right click and extract all. And now all we should have to do, I think, is just click Control A and then we will Control C. Or you can right click and hit copy. And then we'll open up a new page. We'll go to the C and then Windows, scroll down to fonts, and then just hit Control V. And it should start installing all of these missing fonts that it said. Now, it might say that some aren't a valid install, which is fine because we copied the text file. We'll just hit don't show for these recurring items and just hit close. And then you should see that all fonts 98 out of 98 have done successfully. So we can go ahead and close out of that. Then we're also going to go down here on our little bar here, and then you're going to see the YASB icon, right click it, and then hit get themes. Now, since we did install it, if you like this theme at the top, you can just right click it and hit reload YASB and it should pull in the new fonts since we've downloaded them. But as you can see from the theme gallery, we can actually change this out to a bunch of different stuff. Now you can download it and then customize it and upload it into your system. If you just want to do something with it, just see what it looks like or just start using it right away, just go ahead and hit install. It's going to say there's maybe some missing text. It's fine. We'll just hit install anyways. It'll still work. It just the text might not be exactly the way it was supposed to look. And you'll see that it reloads at the top and looks a little bit different. Now scrolling down, you'll see that there are plenty of different themes down here. I'm going to just install the sky theme here. It should say that the capability is there, which is great. And here you can see that it's installed. We can see that Kava is not installed. Now that is a special music visualizer app. If you guys do want to end up using this stuff, it's a lot of learning curve. There's a lot of customization into it. I'm not going to go that much deeper into it. One thing to note though, if you have translucent TB, it's going to freak out when you do this because it reloads Explorer every time you hit install. So if you do install too many times in a row, it thinks it broke Windows. All you have to do is just hit the start screen, go find translucent TB and just have it run again and it'll just kick back off. It's fine. There's no big deal. It's just a error detection on translucent TB's front, but that's all there is to it. There's just now a little screen at the top, which is perfect. It gives us some information. It tells us what our CPU's at, memory usage. You can actually hit some of the icons as well. Like this will just open up Chrome for you. We can see that the command palette. So if you want something like the terminal open, as you can see, it's already opened. If we close it out, it goes away. If we open up Firefox, doesn't see Firefox because I don't think it's set up for that. But if we open up Chrome, you can see that it's set up to do that. If we are in Terminal, you'll see that it shows Windows PowerShell. For File Explorer, you'll see that it actually changes when we're in a folder too. So it kind of tells us at the top right there which folder we're in. So it's kind of cool. Definitely play around with it. A lot of customization within this product. It makes it feel a little bit more like Linux, I would say, because Linux does a lot of these top bar status bars that you can customize and adjust the way you want them to be. And that's it for today's video. Now we've disabled a lot of the telemetry out of Windows 11. We've customized it a little bit further. We've installed some cool products. I've showed you some more of the more advanced products that we can install, which is perfect. And I think this is a great starting point. Better so than the Windows 11 beginner video that we did before. This puts you in a better place. Microsoft won't be able to spy on you quite as much. Also, if you're going to use Edge, that one now is not going to be able to spy on you either. So it is perfect. Hopefully you guys got some good value out of this video. And like I said, there will be on more advanced videos. There will be also like just specific videos for Windows customization where maybe we'll go through things like this YASB and actually customize it completely. I just wanted to show you guys briefly how to kind of get to a better place where maybe Windows 11 looks a little bit more you. And I'm not saying this is your aesthetic, but you can play around with this and find what your aesthetic is, hopefully a little bit better. If you like this video, think about like, commenting, and subscribe down below. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.